The phone's shrill ring tore through the silence of Elliot Harper's apartment at 2:03 a.m., a sound so jarring it felt like a scream in the dark. He fumbled for the device, heart pounding, expecting bad news. Who calls at this hour with anything else? It was his brother, Caleb, sobbing so hard his words were barely coherent, begging Elliot to take in his 6-year-old daughter, Mila. Elliot sat up in bed, the cold hardwood floor biting his bare feet as Caleb's voice cracked over the line. "I can't do it anymore, Elle. I'm not fit to be her dad right now." The confession hit like a freight train. Elliot hadn't spoken to Caleb in 3 years, not since their last fight, when words turned to wounds and bridges burned. They'd grown up in a small Oregon town, Seaside, where their conservative family had suffocated Elliot's truth. He was gay, and coming out at 17 had cost him their love. Caleb had been the only one who didn't turn away entirely, but even he had kept his distance, unable to fully reconcile with Elliot's identity. Now, here he was, pleading for help. Elliot's mind raced. He was a park ranger, living a quiet life in a one-bedroom apartment, his days filled with solitary hikes and paperwork. He wasn't ready to raise a child, let alone one he barely knew. But Mila's face flashed in his mind, her wide eyes from a Christmas photo Caleb had sent years ago. "Okay," he whispered, the word heavy with a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. "I'll come get her." The next morning, Elliot drove 6 hours to Portland, the coastal fog clinging to his truck like a shroud. Caleb's apartment was a mess. Empty beer cans, unwashed dishes, and a lingering smell of despair. Mila sat on a couch, clutching a stuffed rabbit, her braids uneven, her eyes searching Elliot's face for answers he didn't have. Caleb, gaunt and unshaven, handed over a backpack with her things. "I'm sorry," he muttered, avoiding Elliot's gaze. "I'll get better. I just need time." Elliot wanted to scream, to demand why Caleb had let it come to this, but Mila's small hand stopped him. As they drove back to Seaside, the silence between them was deafening, broken only by Mila's soft question. "Are you my dad now?" Elliot's throat tightened. "I'm your uncle," he said gently, "but I'm going to take care of you." Back in Seaside, Elliot's life unraveled and rewove itself around Mila. He enrolled her in school, bought a bed for his tiny living room, and learned to braid hair from YouTube tutorials. The town, with its salt-worn boardwalk and gray beaches, felt both familiar and foreign now. People whispered about Caleb's failure, about Elliot's new role, about the gay man raising a child. He ignored them, but the weight of their stares was heavy. One rainy evening, Elliot took Mila to the Seaside Diner, hoping a warm meal might lift their spirits. That's when he saw Noah Delgado, sitting in a booth, sketching on a napkin. Noah was new in town, an artist who'd moved from San Francisco to open a gallery. His warm brown eyes and easy smile had caught Elliot's attention weeks ago at a coffee shop, but Elliot had kept his distance, too guarded, too busy hiding his heart. Now, Noah looked up, his gaze locking with Elliot's, and something shifted. "Mind if we join you?" Elliot asked, surprising himself. Noah's smile widened. Plenty of room. The diner's warmth enveloped them, a stark contrast to the rain hammering the windows. Mila slid into the booth across from Noah, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm, while Elliot sat beside her, hyper-aware of Noah's presence. Noah's sketch, a vibrant swirl of ocean waves and starlight, drew Mila's attention. "That's pretty," she said shyly. Noah grinned, sliding the napkin toward her. "Want to add something?" She hesitated, then picked up a crayon and drew a lopsided heart. Elliot watched, his chest loosening for the first time in days. Noah had a way of making things feel lighter, like the world wasn't always on the verge of collapsing. They talked about Mila's new school, Noah's gallery, the way seaside storms made everything feel alive. Noah's laugh was warm, unguarded, and Elliot found himself leaning in, craving more of it. But when Noah asked about Mila's parents, Elliot's walls went up. "It's complicated," he said, voice clipped. Noah didn't push, but his eyes held a quiet understanding that unnerved Elliot. Over the next few weeks, Noah became a fixture in their lives. He'd show up at the diner with colored pencils for Mila or invite them to his gallery, where she'd paint messy canvases while he and Elliot talked. Noah shared stories of his own past, growing up in a strict family, coming out, leaving San Francisco after a painful breakup. "I came here to start over," he said one night, his voice soft, "to find something real." Elliot wanted to ask what that meant, but fear kept him silent. He hadn't let anyone close since his family's rejection, since the ache of being told he was wrong. Mila, though, was thriving. She laughed more, her drawings covering Elliot's fridge. But at night, she'd wake up crying, asking for her dad. Elliot held her, promising Caleb would come back, though doubt gnawed at him. He called Caleb weekly, leaving voicemails that went unanswered. The silence was a wound that wouldn't heal. One evening, Noah invited them to a bonfire on the beach, a community event to celebrate the gallery's opening. The flames crackled under a starlit sky, and Mila ran along the shore with other kids, her laughter carrying over the waves. Noah handed Elliot a beer, their fingers brushing. "You're doing good with her," Noah said. "It's not easy stepping up like that." Elliot shrugged, staring at the fire. "I'm just trying not to screw it up." Noah's gaze lingered. "You're not screwing it up. You're giving her a home." The words hit Elliot hard, stirring something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, maybe, or something dangerously close to it. As the night wound down, Noah's hand rested on Elliot's shoulder, a quiet gesture that felt like an anchor. Elliot didn't pull away. But the past wasn't done with him. Late that night, his phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. "I'm in trouble. Need to see you. Don't tell Mila." Elliot's stomach dropped. He stared at the message, the bonfire's warmth fading from his memory. Whatever Caleb was running from, it was about to crash into their fragile new life. Elliot didn't sleep after Caleb's text. He sat on his couch, the glow of his phone casting shadows on the walls, rereading the words until they blurred. Trouble. It was always trouble with Caleb, drugs, debt, bad choices. But this felt different, heavier. He didn't reply. Not yet. Mila was asleep in the next room, her soft breathing a reminder of what was at stake. He couldn't let Caleb's chaos touch her. The next morning, Elliot dropped Mila at school and drove to the ranger station, his mind a tangle of worry. His boss, Sarah, noticed his distraction. "You okay, Harper?" she asked, her voice kind but firm. He nodded, but the lie felt thin. He spent the day patrolling the coastal trails, the ocean's roar doing little to drown out his thoughts. By evening, he was back at the diner with Mila, avoiding Noah's texts. He wasn't ready to explain, not when he didn't understand himself. But Noah showed up anyway, sliding into their booth with a playful grin. "You're avoiding me," he teased, though his eyes searched Elliot's face. Mila giggled, showing Noah her latest drawing, a whale with a rainbow tail. Elliot forced a smile, but Noah wasn't fooled. "Talk to me," he said later, when Mila was distracted with her milkshake. Elliot hesitated, then let it spill. Caleb's text, the years of distance, the fear of what came next. Noah listened, his hand resting near Elliot's on the table, close but not touching. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. The words were simple, but they cracked something open in Elliot's chest. 2 days later, Caleb showed up. Elliot was fixing dinner when a knock came at the door. There he was, thinner than before, eyes bloodshot, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He said, voice raw. "I need help." Mila was in her room, and Elliot stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "What kind of trouble?" he demanded. Caleb's story came in fragments. A gambling debt, a bad crowd, threats he couldn't escape. "I didn't want to drag you into this," he said, "but I had nowhere else to go." Elliot's anger flared. "You left her, Caleb. You left your daughter." Caleb flinched, tears welling. "I know. I'm trying to fix it." Elliot wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thing, long broken. He let Caleb crash on the couch, but only for one night. "You're gone by morning," he said, "and you don't see Mila until you're clean." The next day, Noah came by with art supplies for Mila, sensing the tension without asking. He stayed, helping Mila paint while Elliot watched Caleb pack his bag. Before leaving, Caleb hugged Elliot, a rare gesture that felt like a goodbye. "Take care of her," he whispered. Elliot nodded, throat tight. As Caleb's car disappeared down the street, Noah's hand found Elliot's, a quiet promise that he wasn't alone. Life settled into a new rhythm, but the cracks remained. Mila asked about her dad, and Elliot's vague answers, "He's working on some things," felt like betrayals. He threw himself into routine: school drop-offs, ranger patrols, dinners at the diner. Noah was there, steady and warm, his presence a lifeline. They'd steal moments after Mila went to bed, talking on Elliot's porch under the stars, their conversations weaving through dreams, fears, and the past they'd both tried to outrun. One night, Noah kissed him. It was soft, tentative, on the porch steps with the ocean's hum in the distance. Elliot froze, then leaned in, the kiss deepening with a hunger he hadn't known he carried. When they pulled apart, Noah's smile was shy. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," he admitted. Elliot's heart raced, torn between joy and fear. "I don't know how to do this," he said, voice low. "I've never," he trailed off, but Noah understood. "We'll figure it out," he said, and Elliot believed him. But Caleb's shadow lingered. A week later, Elliot got a call from a Portland hospital. Caleb had overdosed, not fatal but close. He was in rehab now, but the news shook Elliot. He didn't tell Mila, but she sensed something, her questions sharper, her drawings darker. Noah suggested a weekend trip to distract her, a drive to Cannon Beach, where they built sandcastles and ate ice cream. Mila's laughter returned, and Elliot caught Noah watching him, eyes soft with something that looked like love. It scared him as much as it thrilled him. Back in Seaside, the town's whispers grew louder. A parent at Mila's school cornered Elliot, questioning his lifestyle and Mila's safety. "She needs a real family," the woman said. Elliot's fists clenched, but he walked away, the words echoing old wounds. That night, he told Noah, expecting pity. Instead, Noah's jaw tightened. "They're wrong," he said fiercely. "You're her family, and you're enough." The conviction in his voice steadied Elliot, but doubt lingered. Was he enough? Then came a letter from Caleb, scrawled from rehab. "I'm trying, El. For Mila. For you." It was a flicker of hope, but it came with a warning. The people Caleb owed money to were still out there. Elliot's protective instincts surged. He installed a new lock on the door and kept Mila close, the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. No one noticed, offering to stay over, his presence a quiet strength. As they sat together, Mila asleep between them, Elliot realized he was falling. Hard for Noah, but with Caleb's past closing in, he wondered if love was a luxury he could afford. The threat arrived on a Tuesday. Elliot found a note slipped under his door. "Tell Caleb to pay up, or we come for you." No signature, just a scrawled phone number. His blood ran cold. He called the number, his voice steady despite the fear. A man answered, his tone casual but menacing. "Caleb owes 10 grand. You got a week." Elliot hung up, his mind racing. He couldn't tell Mila, couldn't risk her safety. He called the police, but they could do little without evidence. "Keep us posted," the officer said, unhelpfully. Noah was there when Elliot explained, his face pale but resolute. "We'll figure this out," he said, echoing his earlier promise. They decided to keep Mila close. No school until it was safe. Noah moved into the apartment, sleeping on the couch, his sketches piling up as he stayed up late with Elliot, planning. They considered paying the debt, but Elliot's savings were meager, and Noah's gallery was barely breaking even. "I could sell some paintings," Noah offered. Elliot shook his head. "This isn't your fight." But Noah disagreed. "It's ours," he said, his hands squeezing Elliot's. The words were a lifeline, but fear gnawed at Elliot. He couldn't lose Mila or Noah. He called Caleb's rehab center, demanding answers. Caleb was shaken, but swore he'd told no one where Elliot lived. "I'm sorry, El," he said, voice breaking. "I never meant for this." Elliot wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thread. Days passed in a tense blur. Elliot took Mila to Noah's gallery, where she painted while they watched the door. One night, A brick crashed through the gallery's window, a note tied to it. 3 days. Noah's hands shook as he swept up the glass, but he didn't waver. "We're not running," he said. Elliot nodded, but fear was a living thing inside him. He contacted a friend from the ranger station, a former cop named Marcus, who offered to stake out the apartment. "You've got people, Harper," Marcus said. "Lean on them." That night, Noah and Elliot sat with Mila, watching a movie, her head on Elliot's lap. Noah's fingers traced circles on Elliot's hand, a silent promise. "I love you," Noah whispered when Mila dozed off. The words hit Elliot like a wave, overwhelming and undeniable. "I love you too," he said, voice rough. It was the first time he'd said it to anyone. But as they held each other, the ticking clock of the threat loomed, and Elliot knew the past wasn't done with them yet. The deadline came too fast. Elliot hadn't slept in days, his eyes scanning every stranger on the street. Noah stayed close, his calm anchoring Elliot's fraying nerves. Marcus had found a lead, a name, Victor Ruiz, a low-level dealer Caleb had crossed. The police were watching Ruiz, but evidence was thin, and the threat felt closer than ever. Elliot kept Mila home, her questions growing sharper. "Why can't I go outside?" she asked, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. Elliot's heart broke, but he forced a smile. "Just for a little while, kiddo." Noah suggested a plan. Lure Ruiz out, record a confession, and hand it to the police. It was risky, but they were out of options. Elliot called the number from the note, arranging a meet at a secluded pier under the guise of paying the debt. Marcus would be nearby, hidden, with a recorder. Noah insisted on coming, his jaw set. "I'm not letting you do this alone," he said. Elliot wanted to argue, but saw the fire in Noah's eyes and nodded. The pier was deserted, the ocean's roar drowning out the world. Elliot stood alone, a duffel bag of fake cash at his feet, his heart pounding. Noah and Marcus watched from a distance, hidden in the shadows. Ruiz appeared, a wiry man with cold eyes, flanked by 2 others. "Where's the money?" he demanded. Elliot played his part, offering the bag, probing for details. "Caleb's gone," he said. "Why come after me?" Ruiz sneered. "He said you'd pay. Family, right?" The words were enough. Marcus had it on tape. But things went wrong. One of Ruiz's men spotted Marcus, and chaos erupted. A fist connected with Elliot's jaw, sending him to the ground. Noah shouted, rushing forward, only to be grabbed. Fear surged through Elliot, but Marcus was faster, tackling one of the men as police sirens wailed in the distance. Ruiz bolted, but the cops were closing in. Elliot scrambled to Noah, pulling him close, both of them shaking. "You okay?" Elliot gasped. Noah nodded, his hand gripping Elliot's. "You?" The police arrested Ruiz's men, the recording enough to build a case. Back at the apartment, Mila ran to Elliot, her small arms wrapping around him. Noah joined them, his presence a steady warmth. The threat was over, but the scars remained. That night, as Mila slept, Elliot and Noah sat on the porch, the stars bright above. "We made it," Noah said softly. Elliot nodded, but his mind was on Caleb and the future. Could he trust his brother to come back? Could he build a life with Noah and Mila, despite the town's judgment? Months passed, and the world felt different. Caleb was still in rehab, his letters more frequent, filled with apologies and promises. Elliot read them to Mila, editing out the pain, focusing on hope. She was thriving now, her drawings brighter, her laughter louder. The town's whispers faded, replaced by quiet acceptance. Elliot and Noah were a unit, their love a quiet strength. They'd moved into a small house together, with a room for Mila and space for Noah's art. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. One spring day, Caleb showed up, clean, steady, a tentative smile on his face. Elliot braced himself, but Caleb didn't ask for Mila back. "I want to be in her life," he said, "but you're her home now." They talked for hours, rebuilding what they could. Caleb met Noah, and though it was awkward, there was respect in his nod. Mila hugged her dad, tears in her eyes, and Elliot felt a weight lift. He wasn't replacing Caleb. He was adding to Mila's family. The gallery hosted a show that summer. Mila's paintings displayed alongside Noah's. The town came, their curiosity turning to admiration. Elliot stood in the back, watching Noah and Mila laugh together, his heart full. Later, on the beach, Noah took his hand. "We're a family," he said, and Elliot nodded, tears blurring the stars. The past had shaped them, but it didn't define them. They built something real, something worth fighting for. As the waves crashed, Elliot thought of the call that had changed everything. It had brought pain, fear, and uncertainty, but also love in ways he'd never imagined. He pulled Mila and Noah close, their warmth grounding him. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid.